Can y'all hear me okay? Sweet. Okay. So now I've been called many things in my life. Reptilian, Ice Queen, and the deceased, to name a few. And perhaps my love of Valentine's Day stems from this. In an attempt to prove that I indeed have a heart that beats, I have given my unyielding support of the day, although I prefer the old adage, cold hearts, warm heart, to describe my disposition. So you can imagine my elation upon learning that my lover's birthday was just 2 days after Valentine's Day, and that an anagram of his name spells the word romance. I had struck Valentine's gold. Surely we must be twin flames, or something. And so my beloved romance and I were in the throes of it, so to speak, on that fateful Valentine's night of February 14th, 2021. We lay nude, disheveled, and sticky in each other's arms as we gently drifted into slumber. Couples across the state, still moist with fluids of their recent lovemaking and quivering, suddenly lay stark nude and shivering in their disheveled love nests. An entire population now scrambling for tattered pajama bottoms and searching for pilled beanies buried at the bottom of sock drawers amidst the pitch darkness. I was among them. I am, of course, referring to the deep Arctic storm of 2021, which left most of the entire state of Texas powerless, waterless, and in frigid darkness for days. The power went out at our home around 3 a.m. after Valentine's night. Once we had sufficiently clothed ourselves, my lover and I waited in the darkness for the electrical company to fix whatever transformer had blown or erect whatever line that had downed as icy sleet lashed against our bedroom window panes. As you may have guessed, the work trucks never arrived. By 10 that morning, the power still had not returned, and I watched the frozen rain turn to snow, then harden to a tundra around our little home. I watched as all the romance drained from my lover, and I fought to keep the frost from encasing my own heart. My lover, if you could still call him that, pulled old dusty blankets from storage containers to place over all of our windows, and rolled up towels against the bottoms of door frames to keep out the chill. I wrapped my feline child and myself in a bundle of blankets and waited. At noon, we braved the icy roads to the grocery store and waited in a line, which wrapped around the building for whatever was left of supplies, such as cans of creamed corn and pork products. I tried to reach for Romance's hand once more as we waited in line, but he was distracted with his telephone in one hand while the other was shoved deeply into his jacket pocket to avoid the Arctic chill. Once we were inside, we split up to cover more ground. Upon my solo quest, I spied a single can of teriyaki Spam sitting askew on an aisle shelf. To my left, a pack of floral-scented pink toilet paper, the brand name Vogue with 90s style and yellow flower patterns adorning the packaging, piled in a corner. What year was this? Nary a chocolate-covered strawberry or a slight slice of birthday cake to be found. That afternoon, the power returned, and I anxiously dashed to the shower to wash the remnants of Romance's stale love off of me and out of my hair. Alas, mid-shampoo, the power inexplicably went out once more. I had no other choice but to rinse my soapy locks in icy water, towel dry them, and wrap them in the most unfashionable beanie one could imagine. By nightfall that evening, my acquaintance and I lay stark awake in our bed. Shivering with cold, I reached out for his hand, but for only a vestige of moral support when he coldly snatched his away. "You don't want any of that, babe," he warned. "I've been scratching my nuts all night." In the early morning hours, I awoke abruptly to use the commode, and it wasn't for a quick wee. In a panic, I poured several bowls of tub water into the toilet, trying to coax it to flush. The toilet pipes must be frozen, I thought. And I went to awake the acquaintance who lay in a dreamless sleep in my bed. Annoyed as hell, he arose and stomped to the toilet to see for himself what could be done about the matter. He managed to flush it on his first try, then stomped straight back to bed. I lay awake for a time after that, wondering if we would all die of consumption or if it would just be better if I did. The mortification of what had just transpired was surely much worse. I awoke alone at 7 the following morning, as though in a dream. A crystallized tear from heartbreak perched upon my cyan cheek. Had I indeed perished during the frozen night? Let us all not forget that people did in fact freeze to death during that long night. I peered out my bedroom window to find a thick sheet of ice on the inside of the window pane, and I'd hopelessly etched into it the shape of a heart with a jagged line through its center. The thermostat read 19 degrees inside of our house, and our hearts. It was then that I remembered it was my now acquaintance's birthday. I could hear him bustling about in the kitchen, and so I stumbled down the hall to find him boiling a huge pot of water on the stove like a warlock. At first, this steamed our house into a tepid bath, but after some adjustments, the front room of our house became a toasty 58 degrees. I yearned for the days of 69, when our loved ones flourished. We had been dripping all of our faucets and had filled the tub, so we weren't yet without water. I wished the man formerly known as Romance a happy birthday as he tossed his snow gloves into my lap. "Here, I found these in the shed," he muttered. His two friends, Misery and Boredom, came by to celebrate his day with him. With nothing else to do, they drank a few cases of beer before Romance announced he was heading out to buy himself a birthday meal. "The traffic lights aren't working," I reminded him. "I'll be fine," he replied, his words slurring. I snatched his keys out of his stupid yet sexual hands. I still couldn't allow him to skid to his death in the streets alone. "I'm driving then," I muttered, and off we went to find him a birthday meatball sub. Along the way, I fantasized about a candlelit spaghetti dinner, the two of us seated at our little kitchen table in our birthday suits as we slurped the same noodle until the surprise meeting of our sauce-drenched lips. Instead, ex-Romance practically unhinged his jaw and swallowed his sub whole while hunched over the dripping kitchen sink in darkness. Later that evening, I boiled a pot of water and gave myself a horror's bath, as my mother liked to refer to it. Although I now felt far from being a sexual human and more similar to a frail, elderly lizard who'd tragically become trapped in a refrigerator. A horror's bath includes washing only your stinking bits if you didn't know about it. By 7:30 in the evening on the second day of freezing darkness, my live-in stranger and I sat side by side on our couch. I suggested several board or card games with which to entertain ourselves with, but the stranger refused my suggestions. He preferred to stay glued to his telephone for weather and electrical power updates. Minutes later, I went to fetch a ribbon and tied it into a loop. When I returned, I presented it to the stranger. "Here, cat's cradle," I announced proudly. Perhaps we might gently graze hands whilst cradling these cats together and find our spark once more. "Yeah, I'm not doing that, babe," the stranger replied as he waved my hands away. At 7:45 that evening, we watched The Shape of Water on his telephone. I was practically shivering to discuss with him the depths of the movie character's tragic love, when promptly at 9:30 that night, the stranger living in my home trudged off to bed to sleep in our 19-degree bedroom alone. I stayed on the living room couch listening to the water torture of the dripping kitchen sink as the last candle dwindled. I prayed for sleep to take me, but to no avail. when, as though by a miracle of science and Miss Valentine herself, all the lights and the heat in our little home suddenly turned on at full capacity. Moments later, the stranger in my home tromped through my house and out the front door. I thought perhaps he had decided to go out for a pack of cigarettes or a carton of milk, but he soon returned with a dusty space heater from the shed. That night, we each cautiously showered separately, then bundled up beneath the blankets of what was once our love nest. For the last time, I inched my hand towards his until I could feel the electrical current running between our fingers. Then, as a second miracle that night, he grasped my hand in his. I stifled a gasp of ecstasy. He cuddled me for a while until I drifted into a serene slumber. Then, off he snuck to play with his electronics. Thank you.
All right. What a great job. That was awesome. Before our next story here, I just want to read another thing off the program. If you or someone you know, living in Harris County has been deeply impacted by the inclement weather of last week, of the last month, really, please go to readyharris.org and apply for some assistance. It's there. The money's just sitting there. Please take it if you need it. Please, please, please. All right, moving on. Kidnapped, written by John Wayne Comunale and read by Andrew Alvarado.